In this video, I'm going to show you the tracks in Reaper 7. As I mentioned in the intro video, right over here is where we have our tracks. Over here is the arrangement window, and down here is our mixer. And to create a track, we can go up here to the track menu and insert new track, which creates this new track. Or we could choose the keyboard shortcut, which is Control-T on the PC or Command-T on the Mac. Hit that keyboard shortcut, and that also creates a track. Or we could right-click over here, insert new track, or my favorite way is to just double-click in this area. Double-click to create as many tracks as we want. Now all these tracks can contain any type of media. Could be audio, MIDI, video. There are no track types. And to duplicate our tracks, we could right-click this track, choose Duplicate Tracks, and that duplicated that track. Do it again, or delete our tracks by just hitting delete. We could reorder our tracks just by dragging them. Grab this one, drag it up here, grab this one, drag it down here, or down here, to reorder our tracks. We can resize them just by grabbing over here, make this one smaller or bigger, make this one bigger or smaller, or so on. We can name our tracks by double-clicking in here, name this one drums, and hit return to stop. Or if we're renaming many tracks, we could double-click and rename it, and then just tab to go to the next track and rename that one. When we're done, hit return or enter, and the tracks are renamed. We could insert multiple tracks. Let's delete these by going up here to the insert menu and go down here to multiple tracks. That opens up this dialog where we could choose how many tracks we want to insert. Let's choose 3 and the name of those tracks. And what's good about this is if we name multiple tracks, it'll add a number to the end of that name. So if we choose vocal and 3 tracks, it creates 3 tracks named vocal 1, vocal 2, and vocal 3. And we could also do that with the right-click menu. Right-click up here, go to insert multiple tracks, and do the same thing. And we get vocal 1, vocal 2, and vocal 3. It's a bit of a time saver if you're inserting multiple tracks that are all doing similar things. We could also color our tracks. Let's select the drum track, go to the track menu, and choose track color, and set the tracks to a custom color. That opens up a color palette, which might look different for you, but for me, it looks like this. Choose a color for this track. Now this track has this track color. And we could do it with multiple tracks if we want. Select all of them. Let's right-click it instead. Go down here to track color, set tracks to custom color, and give them all this color. Or we could use random colors. Let's select them all, go to the track menu, track color, and set them all to random colors, which now looks like this. We could also add track icons to the tracks. For our drums, go to the track menu, go down here to track icon, and choose Set Track Icon. That opens up this dialog with a bunch of icons we can choose. Of course, you could also create your own. Let's choose for our drums this icon right here. Double-click it, and that adds a drum icon right here. For the bass, go to the track menu, track icon, and let's choose this bass clef, which now looks like this. So we can add icons to our track to quickly recognize what's on those tracks. Or we could remove it by going to the same menu and removing the track icon, which does give us a bit more screen real estate. We could also add visual spacers to our tracks to separate them based on what they do. Let's create more tracks, And let's say these two right here are doing something different, but they're together. We can select them both, right-click, go to Visual Spacer, and choose to insert a spacer before and after these tracks. And now, these two tracks are separated from the one above it and the ones below it. So we can quickly see that these two go together. Or we could delete those spacers right here by right-clicking. Now we could also adjust the track controls on our tracks. Right over here is our volume for this track and this track. And if you notice, it adjusts the mixer at the same time. If I adjust this one, the mixer fader moves as well. So we can adjust it here or adjust it here. We can adjust our pan over here. And if the mix is closed, close it here, a pan shows up over here. So we can adjust the pan to the left or right on each one of these tracks. And we could also double click any of these knobs to put them back to their default. In this case, the center. Or down here in the mixer. And we could also adjust our mute and our solo for each one of our tracks, which we could also drag if we want. Drag to mute them, unmute them, drag to solo them, or unsolo them. And do the same thing with our record button. And over here is our routing button, which we could use to create sends or buses to send tracks from one to another. We'll go over that in a future video. And over here, we can add effects to each one of our tracks right in here with the included plugins or third-party plugins that you install. But again, we'll go over that in a different video. And we could automate our tracks using envelopes, type V, for volume, to draw them in, or pan, draw those in, as everything in Reaper can be automated. And we could also group our tracks temporarily or permanently with a created group. So if I select these tracks, type Shift-G, that opens the group dialog. We can create a group for all these parameters and close it. And now, if I adjust the volume, it changes the volume on all the tracks. Up here or down here. Same with the pan, or solo in the tracks, or muting them, or putting them in record. But we could override the grouping by holding down the Shift key. Hold Shift, adjust the volume, and it overrides the group and just works on this track for solo and for mute. But we could also create a temporary group, which is what happens if we select multiple tracks, select these three, adjust the volume, and they all move together without having to create a group first. We can mute them together or solo them, and if they're not selected, they work independently. But if they are selected as a temporary group, we could still override it with the Shift key, like we did before with the created groups. Hold Shift, adjust the volume for each one of our tracks, in the mixer as well. They now work independently, ignoring the group. For our pans over here, or over here, the mute or solo, let go of Shift, and they behave like a group again. As long as they're selected. Deselect them, and they're independent again. So that's pretty much it. That's the tracks in Reaper 7. I hope you learned something, hope you could use it, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.
Bingo, boys, let's go.